The streetlights flickered outside the coffee shop, casting faint shadows against the rain splattered window. The hum of quiet conversations mixed with the soft clink of mugs and the hiss of espresso machine. But none of it registered to Vian. Her fingers curled tightly around her paper cup, the warmth long gone, leaving only the bitter dregs of coffee and an ache in her chest. Taehyung sat across from her, scrolling through his phone, barely looking up, his jaw clenched every time the screen lit up with a notification. And he'd sigh, rubbing his eyes as if the mere presence of her was another task on his never ending list. You're always on your phone, Vian whispered, her voice barely cutting through the noise. He didn't look up. I have assignments, deadlines. Her eyes stung. When was the last time we talked? Actually talked. We're talking now, he muttered, typing something out with sharp, quick movements. This isn't talking, she snapped, the words harsher than intended. She softened her tone, reaching out across the table, her fingertips just brushing against his hand. You don't even look at me anymore. Taehyung flinched, finally locking his phone and placing it face down on the table. His eyes, the ones she used to drown in, were cold, distant, as if he were already somewhere else. Why, and I told you things would be different once we went to different universities. You said you understood. Understanding, that word had followed her like a ghost for months. She had understood. She had cheered him on when he got into his dream school, packed him a care package when he moved, even when the weight of missing him pressed down against her chest like a vice. She had understood when his texts grew shorter, his call less frequent, his excuses more rehearsed. But she didn't understand this. The way he acted like her presence was a burden. The library lights buzzed quietly overhead, casting a dim glow across the rows of bookshelves. Paper was scattered across the wooden table, notes scribbled in every margin, sticky notes cluttering the edges like tiny, colorful flags. Taehyung sat hunched over his laptop, fingers tangled in his hair, his leg bouncing restlessly beneath the table. His jaw clenched so tightly that the muscle in his neck strained, and every few seconds he let out a sharp, frustrated breath. I can't do this, he muttered, shoving his notebook away like it physically repelled from him. The pages fluttered before settling. The mock test marked up in red ink, wrong answers glaring back at him like accusations. I'm going to fail the entrance exam. I'm wasting my time. Wyan, sitting across from him, looked up from her own books. She didn't say anything at first, just quietly watched him, her eyes soft with understanding. Then, without a word, she reached across the table, gently taking his hand to stop him from gripping his hair any tighter. Breathe, she whispered, squeezing his fingers. You're not failing anything. You're just tired. Taehyung shook his head, eyes burning as he leaned back in his chair. Tired. I've been studying for weeks and I still keep messing up. Maybe I'm not meant to go to this university. He laughed bitterly, rubbing at his face. Maybe I should just give up. Vine didn't flinch. She grabbed her chair and dragged it around the table, plopping down beside him. She flipped through his test papers, skimming the questions, and then nudged his shoulder with hers. Okay, first of all, she started, voice firm but gentle. You're not giving up. Second, you got these questions right. She pointed to a section at the top of the page, circling the correct answers with her pen. See? You know this stuff. Your brain is just on strike right now. He tilted his head to look at her, the frustration in his eyes dimming ever so slightly. And what if I never get it? She turned to him, her expression serious. You will. He scoffed. How can you be so sure? Vine shifted in her seat, leaning towards him like she was trying to anchor him in place. Because I know you. I watched you stay up until 3 a.m. rewriting notes. I've seen you skip movie nights to practice mock tests. You want this so badly, and you have worked harder than anyone I know. She poked his chest lightly. Your brain is just mean to you sometimes. A reluctant, tired smile tugged at the corner of Taehyung's mouth. You're annoyingly optimistic, he mumbled. But he didn't pull away when she laced her fingers through his. I'm realistic, she corrected, tapping his book. Come on, I'll help you go through the questions you missed. We'll figure out them together. Taehyung looked at her. I knew it'd be hard, she admitted, her voice shaking, but I didn't think you'd shut me out. Taehyung ran a hand through his hair, leaning back in his chair. Exhaustion etched into his features. I'm not shutting you out, Ryan. I'm busy. We're all busy, she burst out, ignoring the glances from nearby tables. Tears welled up, but she blinked them away, refusing to break in front of him. I study, I work on projects, I stay up late too, but I still make time for you. His mouth twitched, but he stayed silent. Do I still matter to you? She asked, the words barely a whisper. The rain outside picked up, drumming against the window like a heartbeat. Taehyung tapped his fingers against the table, his leg bouncing restlessly. It felt like forever before he finally spoke, and when he did, his words hit her like a punch to the gut. I can't do this anymore, Ryan. Her heart dropped. What? He exhaled slowly, rubbing his face with both hands before looking at her. His gaze sharp, unforgiving. This relationship, it's holding me back. Her stomach twisted painfully and her chest constricted, making it hard to breathe. Holding you back, she echoed, her voice barely holding together. I need to focus on my career, on my future. His voice was so steady, so detached, like he'd rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times. I can't keep dealing with fights and guilt trips when I already have so much on my plate. Wine felt like the floor had been ripped out from under her. Guilt trips. Is that what you think it is? She pressed her hand against her chest as if that could keep her heart from shattering. I've been fighting for us, Taehyung, fighting to keep us connected when you keep pushing me away. He leaned forward, lowering his voice but not softening his words. I didn't ask you to fight. You chose to cling to something that isn't working anymore. Her throat closed up, and the tears she'd been holding back finally slipped down her cheeks. She didn't even wipe them away. And I'm grateful, he cut in, his tone sharp enough to slice through her chest. But love isn't enough. Not right now. He ran his hand through his hair again, his frustration barely restrained. I need to focus. I can't keep being distracted by this. Her heart shattered. Distraction, she whispered the word, tasting bitter on her tongue. Is that what I am to you? A distraction? Vine stared at him, the weight of his words sinking into her bones like lead. The boy who used to trace constellations on her palm, who promised her forever under the stars, was now looking at her like she was a loose thread he needed to cut off. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her hoodie, her body trembling. She wanted to scream, to beg, to shake him until he remembered what they used to be, but she didn't. Because she could see it in his eyes. He had already left her long before this conversation started. Van pushed her chair back, the screeching sound echoing painfully in the small cafe. She grabbed her bag, her fingers numb as she slung it over her shoulder. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Taehyung's brows furrowed. Okay, she repeated, louder this time. Her chest caved in on itself, but she forced herself to straighten up, to lift her chin. If I am a distraction, then I'll make it easy for you. She swallowed the lump in her throat, her voice breaking. She turned and walked out of the cafe, the cold rain soaking through her clothes as she stepped onto the street. The world blurred around her, raindrops mixing with tears, her heart shattering with every step. She didn't look back, and Taehyung didn't follow. Hey you guys, I hope you enjoyed this part. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment down if I should make another part and what should happen in that part. Yeah, so this is it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, bye bye. Oh, and also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the rate LustrusFFs.